After I went and sat down and listened to what the BYB and the festival was, and then going in and talking with Angela and looking more into what it really is financially, it is dollars for our city that we need for our streets. You know, and it's not going to pay for everything, but it's a start. And just because you see festival, that does not mean it has to be a liquor festival. And I've said it to many people. If you want to have something, put something together. If you can bring people into our community to help with our dollars, do it. It doesn't have to be drinking. It can be something that is family oriented, you know? We can do that. So that's what my thing is, looking more at the dollars. Right now, we need the money, and if this is going to help revenue, like I said, for restaurants, for hotels, for, you know, hey, I work at Nicky's, so I see the people coming in there buying things. But it's also for the dollars that we can contribute for our streets and for our community. That's how I had to look at it financially, more than just having the beer and whatever. But if you want to have a festival, go down, put something together, and say, hey, we're having these family festivals, and maybe you can take up some of those times. But I totally understand where you're coming from as far as the drinking and all that. I totally get it. But I also have to make a choice for me, and what my assignment is to do right now here on this council is to try to find dollars to come into our community. Have to do, and that's how I have to look at it. So I do agree with you, and God bless us all.
Okay, so that was the presentation for
Yes.
reconsideration. So is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
It'd be a motion to reconsider.
To reconsider to move forward on the first reading?
There's no,
Yes.
No, there has to be a motion first, and then you can.
okay, gotcha.
Right, we need, because at the previous meeting, this ordinance was voted down. It did not pass. So now, if you want to be able to bring it back for a vote, you have to first approve a motion to reconsider. And then it'll be basically, then we'll be, if that motion to reconsider passes, then we'll basically be at first read, you know, having it for first read.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and the motion to reconsider has to be made by someone that was on the prevailing side, which was, in this case, the side that shot it down. So it had, in this particular case, it'd have to come from Joy because she's presenting it.
Okay, so, Alderman Sellers, do
I
you
did
make a
say-
motion to reconsider?
I said so move. Yeah, I
And
make
is there a
motion.
second?
Second.
So then it's just discussion on the motion to reconsider and then a vote on the motion to reconsider. If it passes, now it's brought back onto the table.
So we're voting to reconsider? Okay.
Just to bring it back onto the table, just to bring it back for discussion. Because it was killed before, so now
So,
we're
Madam
bringing it
Clerk,
back.
could you please take the roll on the motion to reconsider?
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
No.
Simmons, Stacy,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
The motion passes by a vote of
So now we're basically at first read. And if someone wants to make a motion to move it forward for second read, we can do that, have more discussion. If there's a motion in a second, then there could be more
Is
discussion.
there a discussion in the first reading?
Yeah, this is, now it's considered the first
Okay. that's-
reading.
Motion to move it forward. Second.
So we have a motion made by Shadle, seconded
This is
by
open for
Clem
discussion.
Yeah.
to move
Yeah.
forward. So now we have discussion, and this is pertaining moving the festival numbers from 12 to 18.
Okay, what I like to understand, far as this ordinance is concerned, had we done an evaluation or study? Because what I'm listening to is that inconclusive arguments why we should not have, why it was even voted down the first time, the festival ordinance, why was it voted down? And so my thing is, if we're reconsidering anything, have we done a study or an evaluation of the overview of the project? Or have it been is it in a form of writing? If it's in a form of writing, or we're just throwing innuendos out there and just hoping that they get up on the wall and stick, or whatever the case is. But my thing is, I just wanted to hear how we come into decisions and who making the decisions, and how this is being facilitated with the question and answering. We haven't had a Q&A about all the particulars, and if we do that, maybe we can get a better understanding of where this thing is driving, so we can get a better outlook of what we're listening to.
Well, I think that it was initially voted down because there was a misunderstanding between a couple of ordinances, and that's what happened there.
Plus you're two people short.
Yep, and so Alderman Clement, did you want to add more to that?
Yeah. No, that's what I was going to say. I think the big thing was the tie-in with the BYOB, and it was very legitimate the way Joy looked at it. It was the fact that, okay, why are we increasing this, and we want to take a look at decreasing the BYOB? Someplace here there's got to be through discussions on it at the Liquor Commission, it was understood that it was two separate entities, and the BYOB thing had to be looked at differently on how it was operated by the people that have them. So once that was separated out, okay, that made the difference there to put it back on. The other thing, that's the night the mayor was gone, and I believe one other alderperson was gone, so made it a tie vote, so there was no way to break the tie vote, so it sat there as being voted down. It didn't get enough votes to pass.
Understood.
Okay.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't confused at the first meeting, but I feel like going from 12 to 18 is just increasing the number to have more events. Really, what we need to look at are the quality of the events that we're having now. The 12 that we had, I mean, Tutty Baker Days was an extreme success. And I think we have to make these days special, and I think they really have to drive engagement, not only within the community, but externally outside the community. It's missing. I could care less if people walk around with a beer or a glass of wine or whatever downtown during these events. But I think the point that's missing here is just adding more events doesn't necessarily increase the likelihood that people will come downtown. And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to increase the quality of the events. We've got to increase our participation in different ways and make it special. You look at Monroe Days every other year. I mean, that's something you don't miss. And I think we've got to do something similar to try and bring people back to Freeport. If it's historical, if it's, business driven, wine days or wine tastings or, clothing, whatever it might be. But it has to be special. Otherwise, it loses some luster in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, the Liquor Commission doesn't really govern the quality of an event. I mean, that has nothing to do with the Liquor Commission. They just have more than 12 events that have been brought before them. That's where the Liquor Commission comes in.
I agree, but we're the ones that govern the quality. If you want to have more events, make them better. And I think that's where we've got to toe the line. I mean, it's like billboards along a road. You don't want a million of them from Walmart to downtown. I think you have to have some community engagement. You've got to have better quality events. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. And that's why I voted no.
Yeah.
Alderman I'm sorry, Sanders?
Yeah, I concur with the quality. See, he's throwing it right in our face. That is the quality that is going to draw people. It's just not going to be moms and pops, neighborhood committees, and smoke barbecues and all of these kinds of things. That's going to continue to draw quality or have quality that we represent here in Freeport. And I'm concurring with it because we can see some raggedy old events that people are not going to stick around for about 5 minutes to be involved or interact with it. So I think what happens is when I mentioned earlier in bringing this out is that we have not as a council or whoever's formulating these events for the festival, we have to look at what they're bringing to the table for us to accept what is quality and what is not quality. And we have to know who's all involved in these kinds of things. So if we're not doing that, then why are we putting on festivals when we have not covered all our bases and to understand how we're going to be marketing Freeport itself? And we have to make sure that Freeport knows that we're running for it. And like he was saying, we're running to make sure that our city meets the standards of
Alderman Shadle.
I think the point of a lot of these smaller festivals are not the fact that we don't need 18 Tutty Baker Days. But the point of these is to get people into the individual shops on Main Street, on Stevenson Street. The way that they're set up is you get your drinks in individual stores. They may have a tasting table set up at Right Way Furniture and one at Flair Boutique and another one down the line here.
I'm sorry,
And
I can't hear you.
I'm sitting right here, Larry. You need to just let me talk. I have the floor.
Well,
I'm
you're
done.
right.
I'm done.
You should be.
You,
You should be. Yep, you should be. You touched me.
Alderman
again.
Sanders, you do not have the floor. Alderman Shadle, go ahead.
thank you. The point of the smaller get-togethers, the Arctic Ale Walk, would be to get people into individual stores. It's not meant to be Tutty Baker Days. It's stores to see that the stores there, what they sell, it's to help the commerce of the downtown businesses.
Alderman Stacy?
Okay, I just want a clear understanding of what was said pertaining to the monies 18 can bring compared to 12 for our streets. Do any of this money have anything to do with our streets?
It generates sales tax. So if someone walks into, this is it, buys dinner, has a few drinks, whatever, right now 1.25% food and beverage tax goes into general fund?
And so, in the past, for these events, what was made for our streets? Little to nothing. We have no street.
It doesn't
account.
necessarily go into streets, am I?
But that's what it was said. We need our streets fixed.
Alderman Sellers, would you like to clarify that?
If we are going to do the plan, the plan that we had put together for our street plan that Darren had put together and did the presentation, and if we are talking about a 1%, the main thing that I'm thinking that 1%, when they come in for certain different things, like Mayor Miller said, going to restaurants, going out to eat, going to buy jewelry, going to stay at the hotel, that money now, when we vote on it, we will watch that money and make sure that money goes to is it the 3.1 or 3 million or how much it's supposed to make up? Okay, so that's what, when I say that, that's what I know in my mind, when we start this street program, we're gonna need money. And that's one way of, I know that we're getting some of the money. And the more we can bring in people into our community, the more money that we can make. That's what most
But usually
communities-
at these festivals, we have trucks. We have food trucks.
they still
And they
have to pay a tax.
They pay a fee to even be there. and then the funding that they make is theirs. Am I correct?
They're still taxed with a state tax, a tax. When I had a restaurant or catering, I still had to send in a tax to Freeport. Even though I made money, I still have to do that. You still have to pay, in your taxing. That's why your Illinois tax,
I just don't want the people misled that we increase all these events and we're going to be bringing more money in for our streets.
Yep.
Because that's not so.
Well,
And-
I think Alderman Sellers is kind of projecting what the possibilities could be if the council chooses to vote for that 1% that we've been talking about for months. The way it currently stands, none of that food and beverage money goes into roads. However, if the council eventually passes that 1% that we've been talking about, then, if you went into this is it, and it's passed and there's an additional 1%, then that automatically goes into the road. So this is a projected, what she's seeing.
I think we're misleading the 1%. I think it's just a pub out there for the 1% right now. And the 1% is the 1%. However, increasing these events from 12 to 18 is not going to bring that much revenue to our city for roads, because if it was, or if it did, or if it have in the past, we wouldn't be in the shape we're at.
Madam Mayor.
but,
Alderman Clem.
yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, guys.
No, I just gonna say, I think once we pass it, that's when we will have that money going in there. Right now, they don't. You are correct, they don't. But if we vote on and we pass that, when they start, that's what we will watch, that account, and make sure that account goes to that. So yes, right now it doesn't. But once we pass it, or if we pass it, then it will. So then it will generate money. So that's what I'm saying.
Madam Mayor.
So back to Alderman Shadle's comment, and I'll come to you, Alderman Clem. This is about trying to drive business into all of the stores. That's what this increase of dates is about. Alderman Clem.
Okay, let's start over here, guys. The 1% has nothing to do with this. No how, no way, anything else. Do you guys understand the home rule tax? Home rule tax accounts for $4.3 million a year, give or take. That's what, whenever you go to this eatery, you come into town to buy gas, you do all that kind of stuff, that money counts, and this festivals will help increase that amount of money. That amount of money goes into the general fund. Guess what the general fund pays for? Everything that we do, okay? So that's gonna bring money into the city of Freeport through that. Keep in mind, if you didn't have home rule and didn't have the home rule tax, you'd have another $4 million to dig out of someplace. The other thing I would ask for leave to do is the fact that Andrea is here from Greater Downtown Freeport, and that's where the initial request for the more festivals came from. Could we ask her what the reason is for it? And
No, she just spoke last week.
Yeah, I know.
She just spoke last week.
Okay, so,
if you can't, you can't. I'm just saying, we're getting.
well, the GFP
Talking about
generated events have already been on the books, and so it was a full 12. And Paint the Port actually was the one that wanted to have an additional date in there, which puts it past it. So that means either one of the GFP dates is eliminated, or Paint the Port's told no. So let's talk about increasing, since it's been such a huge success. That was the point of the Liquor Commission. Does that answer you, Alderman Clem?
Not really, but that's okay. I mean,
It was Paint the
certain
Port.
point, you're filling up events. You know, is there a question? Are some of them wonderful and some of them not? Yeah, that's a question. You know, every one of them isn't geared to bring everything in the world here, and I think Alderman Shadle did a great job of bringing up that it was to get people downtown, get people into the businesses, to see what we have, see what they can come down and purchase, so on and so forth. You know, we're just getting out of hand, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Alderman Monroe?
Do we know, thank you, Madam Mayor, do we know what the average of the 12 festivals we have now bring into the downtown?
I asked that.
I don't know if the GFP would know that or not.
I don't have that big. Are you asking me to answer this question right now?
If you had a general,
I know that when we quoted last year in 2022 from the state, there was over $50 million in tourism revenue that was generated in Stevenson County.
And where did it go?
But that's,
That would not be necessarily specifically only for events, but when we talk about tourism, those are people coming in from outside the community because something has drawn them here, be it an event, be it outdoor recreation, things that we market to people outside the community to get their dollars in here when they're visiting.
And so where did it go?
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, do we have a, I'm gonna come back to some other questions of what, with Brother Clem, but do we have a gauge on what that tourism is bringing in? No, stop it. Do we have a gauge on the tourism amounts that we're bringing in or have brought in, that we can take a preliminary look at these things, an overview look at it, so we can compare from one year to the next year of what we have accumulated to allocate funds to whatever general funding that we have here at the city, that the dollars are being presented, because I'm hearing you throwing out numbers, but we're not seeing those numbers and to evaluate the comparisons from one year to the next year of how much tourism has brought into the central part of the city. So do we have anything like that going on that we can get, that we can take a look at and then sit here and scratch our heads about it? That kind of thing? Is that where we can go to, because I'm looking for where these fundings are. And how is it allocated to the festivals or any kind of event or whatever the case may be? Can we get that so we can make an assessment for everything that the city is accumulating when we start talking about other projects and things like that, that we can see those dollars and then go down the line with it and move forward with it? Is that something we can do?
Andrea, is that something maybe we can talk about at later if you have that data? And if you do have that, maybe you could just throw us the numbers in a memo because there's a motion on the floor to move this for reconsideration. So
And
if you have that, okay.
okay, I have another question. Don't do that. I have another question, especially with the emphasis of what Brother Clem, and I just want to say that I want to amend to it. What you're doing, I think what is being said is, I think is outstanding to go through an overall view of what the events and festivals are going to look like, and who is in charge, first of all. Okay, we need to look at the person that's in charge so we can have somebody to talk with or ask questions about. We need someone that we can go to and say, we're not meeting our benchmarks. What's the content of this meeting, or this I should say, this event or these events that we're trying to conjure up for whatever year. But have we had an overall discussion about these kinds of things, so we're not in here guessing from one person to the other person of what we think? See, this thing about what we think should happen, that gets us nowhere. For what we think, have we come together to evaluate all of these events and find out what it is that we need before we start before the deadlines or the dates start floating away, and we haven't accomplished anything. And that's what I'm talking about. That's all I wanted to say. Where are we at overall, and who's running this thing?
Madam Clerk, would you like to address that?
I would just like to briefly touch base on the special event process. Currently, the city of Freeport is not responsible for any special event. We don't have a committee, we don't have a team. The city does not plan any events. We co-sponsor a couple with in-kind donations. The festival district currently is staffed by events, the majority being the Greater Freeport Partnership. Tutty Festival was one. Paint the Port has asked to join. Am I missing any, Mayor? Eats and Beats is planned mostly by Malcolm Eaton. So the city does not plan these events, but organizations can apply for these events, much like Alderperson Sellers said. If you want to pull a festival together, submit that special event application, then it is reviewed by department heads, usually Attorney Steve Cox. Fire looks at, what would be needed from a fire perspective. Police chimes in, how many police officers. These applications are not presented to council. They don't go up for council approval. They're approved by department heads, and they are not city-funded or planned.
Correct. So the motion is to move this on to the next regular scheduled meeting for second reading.
Second reading.
So we will move on to item number 10, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-11. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving amendment to vehicle lease agreement with Senior Resource Center.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So what I have before you here today is essentially the Pretzel City Area Transit is looking to enter into a lease agreement for a 2016 Ford E350 bus. And I think before you're probably wondering why we're entering into a lease agreement with an old bus. And the short answer is we're still waiting on our new buses. This resolution went out for the new buses, I believe it was in 2022, and we're still waiting for those brand new buses at IDOT. And everyone in the state is waiting for new buses. In the meantime, some participating partners, in this situation, Northwestern Health, for undisclosed reasons, has dropped out of the IDOT transportation program. And that being the case, IDOT works with people that are still utilizing transportation grants to replace, to place the buses. So we had a need for a bus, and McHenry County, Northwest Medicine canceled their program, and IDOT is contacted us and said, would you like this bus? And essentially today I'm presenting to you, would like to move forward this agreement to have a lease agreement for this bus to help our citizens receive much needed transportation.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Alderman Clem.
Director Duckman, do you need to suspend the rules for this? Is it something that you need to do instantly or not?
I would say it's not a need. I mean, it wouldn't hurt if you did, but it's not an instant. I mean, it would certainly help, but I'm not officially making that request, but it would certainly help, I think, if we did.
I would make a motion to suspend the rules and vote on it tonight.
I would second that.
Okay,
We deal with suspension.
okay. So before you, council, is to suspend the rules for this ordinance made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so now we're at second reading of this. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Sellers.
I'd just like to know, how big is the bus? How big is this bus?
It's a 12-passenger bus.
And we had passed this, approved this leasing agreement already.
No, that's what we're doing right now.
That's what we're doing already, okay. Question, does this hire any additional employees to drive a bus?
I know that currently our operator is a senior resource center. I know they are looking to hire and more employees, drivers.
Okay, can you speculate on that?
I would say that they're doing everything they can in their power to get people to help. Just like many organizations, we want help, and they're doing everything they can in my conversations with them to hire drivers in general. I don't think it's related specifically to this bus, but I will tell you that if we do not take this bus, there are communities lined up that will grab up this bus.
So it would be efficient to have this with our citizens here in Freeport for the travels that they need and everything.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Stacy?
Okay, so we've spoken about getting together and driving around and looking at these streets. Saturday around 10 o'clock at night, I just kind of drove around and looked at the street lights. And I saw how they was angled. Some up, some down.
Okay, I'm not sure what this has to do with.
Is this bus something we could use to take those drives that we've spoken about?
I think we can. I mean, they're essentially they're for hire. It's the way it works is it's $6 for anybody in Stevenson County to contact for a bus ride. I'm sure we could work with our planner who works this to contact the senior resource center and say, what will be the fee for eight alderpersons, the mayor, and everybody else. So essentially, we would just have to contact them and say we'd like a ride for this time, and they would set it up.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passing of this ordinance?
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons, Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
and Sellers.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes 7-0.
Item number 11 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-12. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Title 10 Employment Provisions, Chapter 290, Compensation and Benefits, Section 290.01D3 and Section 290.01E of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Freeport regarding classification plan.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Starting with some background on this proposed ordinance, the Community and Economic Development Department has added an additional position to its budget for 2024. So we went through this during our budgeting season. And after several discussions with city council members, as well as city manager Rob Boyer III, we've decided to move forward with adding the position of a land use planner, and that would be specified in this proposed ordinance. And I want to get through some key important roles and responsibilities that will be performed by this position. One would be managing the rental registry, which is currently being revamped at the moment, increasing the number of liens based upon code enforcement violations. They would also be representing staff at our ZBA and Planning Commission meetings. They would be assisting with the fast-track demolition process, also with the grant writing process and prospecting for future grant opportunities. These are just some highlights I wanted to discuss about this proposed position. And again, just want to state that we have added a position to this department for the 2024 budget. And based on this information, I am recommending moving this ordinance forward.
Is there a motion to move forward?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 12, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-13. Could you please read this?
Ordinance adopting 2024 zoning map.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So by statute, the city of Freeport is required to publish annually. It's a map illustrating zoning uses, divisions, restrictions, regulations, and classifications as of the end of the preceding year. So in this situation, and I'll turn off the lights so you can see. Every year, the city's required to publish by ordinance its zoning map for 2023, or for the preceding year, and in this case, we're talking about 2023. And just to kind of give you some highlights, the city of Freeport had 3 zoning map amendments, which essentially means we changed the color from green to red or purple to yellow on that map. We did it in 3 specific situations, and the one that would be known as the Licky Building that's been discussed today, that went from a B1 to a B2 zoning, and that was for a proposed development that would allow for that building, the upper floors, to be a hotel. And then we also had at 1201 Empire, we had a situation where we went from the R6 zoning district, which is a residential district, to a professional use district. And this was essentially what would be cleanup. It was, there was what's known as a non-conforming use. Some people say grandfathered in. There's a long-standing podiatrist at a location, and it happened to be in a residential zoning district. And a real estate development company had purchased the property and was running their offices out of there. So they did a zoning change for that property. And that's kind of the highlights of our zoning map. And based on this information, staff's recommending moving this forward.
Is there a motion to move forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the zoning map. Alderman Sanders.
Okay, Brother Duckman, this zoning map change that you're requesting to be revised or something like that, this does not infringe upon other properties, or we have considered all the objects of people that are living in the zoning area. Are there homes in that zoning area?
Right. So anywhere that's residential zoning would essentially have a home in it. But anybody here who would be, there's only been 3 zoning changes for the year, and I highlighted them, and all of the zoning changes that would be represented in that map just happen to be commercial.
So we won't infringe upon anybody's rental staff or people that are already been grandfathered in, and all of these kinds of things. Won't have no interference from the zoning board itself about their zoning presentations.
No, there would not
Attorney
be.
Zito would like to answer that.
Sure.
So just so the council has a little bit of background, the 3 zoning changes that Wayne highlighted there, those already took place and were approved last year, okay? So what's before you right now, though, is state statute requires the next year, so in 2024, we have to update the map, just the map. You already approved the zoning in 2023. We made 3 zoning changes in 2023. Now in 2024, state statute requires us to update your map to reflect those 3 zoning changes that were already approved in 2023. It's literally a housekeeping matter that we have to publish this map every single year, showing what changes we already did and approved in 2023. So it's just changing the colors on the map for 3.
So there's no conflict of interest going on anywhere?
That was already addressed previously in 2023.
Okay.
So this is just changing the colors on the map.
All right. Thank you, Brother Duckman.
You're welcome.
Okay, then we will move on to item number 13, the adoption of Resolution 2024-09. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving contract for brokered natural gas for Hancock and Brick Street facilities.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Each year, the city, or every 3 years or so, the city does a
electrical aggregator contract to help keep our total cost of kilowatts to a little lower than normal. Or as a contract, we actually gain some economy of scale, and it gives us a little less expensive a rate. This before you today is a similar thing for natural gas. We have Brick Street Water Treatment Plant in Hancock, and Rock River Energy is provided with the request for, hey, we're going to move this forward to April 30th. It will be expiring, so we're looking for authorization to move forward with the lowest natural gas rate available tomorrow, February 21st, 2024. And that would be for a term of 2 years, and that's at the advisement of Rock River Energy. Yes.
Oh, so,
Is there a motion to adopt?
I'm sorry.
We have to have a motion first.
Motion to
before.
approve?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Alderman Shadle. Sorry, Alderman Sanders. My apologies.
Well, I was going to just ask for us to look at the natural gas agreement. Do they just only extend 2 years? Because it sounds like we have to come up again within the next 2 years with the same question or same situation. And so we're good with that? You're good with that?
Manager Boyer?
Yes, that's a good question. That was the recommendation to do 2 years. So I'm forwarding that on as my recommendation.
Okay, then if there's no further questions, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons. Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 14 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-10. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving contract for brokered natural gas for 6 various small facilities.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Exactly the same story. We have a handful of smaller facilities that we currently are working with on the aggregator contract, a similar situation. So staff is requesting to move forward with the lowest rate as of February 21st, 2024.
Is there a motion to
approve.
adopt?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion? Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, what are those measurements? Cumes? How do you measure that gas? Is it, because we're saying that we're getting the best choice, and there's a lot of other energy products out there.
Yeah, so we're measuring that in therms.
Therms, there we go. And so we're looking at other companies and properties or companies that offer better energy costs for better therms. Are we looking at that? Are we looking at all of the spectrum?
Yes, we are. They're not all included because they were higher than the ones that are included here in the packet, but these are the 4 lowest ones that were as of the 15th, and then tomorrow when they're updated, we'll choose the lowest one at that time.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Monroe?
So question, Manager Boyer, why are we breaking out the larger accounts from the smaller accounts and as opposed to buying as a group as the entire city of Freeport? I believe we're just carrying on with what has been done. It also gives us some flexibility if we wanted to decide later on to do a little longer contract or a little shorter contract. And Michelle, do you have any thoughts on that, or do you have any?
I think it's the volume, those 2 big ones, that's dictated by Rock River Energy. That we can't put them together, I think is the rule. I don't think it's an option. They call them transportation accounts. That's as much as I know on that, but our contact there advises us to keep them that way.
Darren, did you want to elaborate on that?
It's very typical for most utilities, and what Michelle said is correct. The energy companies make you split between small facilities, small volume versus large volume, because they won't give you the same price for all the aggregate. It's divided up in every contract.
So that's normal.
Typical.
Monopolistic?
Madam Clerk?
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons, Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
and Sellers. That resolution is adopted 7-0.
And item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-21. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing the acquisition of real property described as part of 1100 West Galena Avenue from Freeport Lanes.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, following up from the previous committee of the whole, we have a parcel of property adjacent to the city yards. That piece of property currently has some remnants and things of construction that are on it. There was a handshake agreement in the past with the previous owner that the city could use it, but all those folks that had the handshake agreement didn't codify anything more than that. So there has been some city material storage in that lot, and as we mentioned before, the city is requesting, or staff is recommending, that we purchase the property PIN number 13-25-452-002 for the amount of $85,000. We did budget for this, and staff's recommending approval of this resolution.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So
Motion
moved.
approved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons, Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
and Sellers.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-22. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an agreement with Greater Freeport Partnership for Economic Development, Planning and Development, Main Street, Tourism and Marketing, and B2B Services.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just following up again from the committee of the whole, staff has worked out with Greater Freeport Partnership an ongoing agreement with the city of Freeport. There were some requests of changes that came from that committee of the whole. One was to reduce the year-end performance bonus from $50,000 to $25,000, and also remove the last bullet point item of the agreement, overall improvement in the quality of life for our residents. So that would limit the agreement to the 5 that are included, which is retention and expansion